By 1609, 1 in 5 people in Istanbul was legally owned. The men commanding the empire's armies, called Grand Viziers, were also legally slaves, and the women locked in the harem were writing letters to Elizabeth I as political equals. 8 levels, 1 empire. Here is what your life actually looked like at every single one. By minute 11, I'll show you exactly what it felt like to be the most powerful man in the world and own nothing, not even yourself. We start at the bottom, not the bottom of a social ladder you can climb. The bottom of a wooden cart, wrists raw, throat dry, moving south through the steppe. You were taken 3 days ago. You still don't fully understand what has happened. Before we go further, stay with me through level 3. That is where the system first inverts, and nothing you think you know about slavery prepares you for what it looks like inside an Ottoman household. It is the early 1600s. You are Ukrainian, or Polish, or from a village whose name nobody in Istanbul will ever learn to pronounce. Totter horsemen came before dawn. The smell of your own burning house is still in your hair. The cold of the steppe is in your bones. Ottoman historians Analsik and Kolodziejczyk estimated that between 1500 and 1700, approximately 2 million people made this exact journey. Rus, Polish, and Ukrainian, funneled south through Crimea into the imperial slave markets. 2 million. In 200 years. That is 10,000 people per year every year for 2 centuries. You arrive at Kiev, the great Crimean port. The smell hits you first. Salt water, animal dung, unwashed bodies packed into wooden pens. Merchants move through the crowd, opening mouths to check teeth, pressing thumbs into forearms to test muscle. You are a unit of commerce. The transaction takes less time than buying a horse. Istanbul, you are carried into a city of overwhelming noise and overwhelming smell, roasting meat, open sewers, perfume, horse sweat, the call to prayer echoing off stone. Venetian ambassadors reported that by 1609, the enslaved population of this city had reached 100,000 people. 1 in every 5 residents is property. You are now one of them. Hold that number, 1 in 5. Because in a moment, I'll show you the household you're assigned to, and the gap between what you expected slavery to look like and what it actually looks like will stop you cold. What happens next is not what you pictured. The household is not a dungeon. It is a kitchen that smells of coriander and charcoal smoke, and the woman standing at the fire has been here 11 years and speaks 3 languages. You are a domestic slave in a mid-ranking Istanbul household. Your day begins before the first light cuts through the latticed window. You haul water, grind grain, carry messages. Your hands crack from lye soap. Your knees ache from stone floors, but you sleep indoors. You eat twice a day. There are rules, and the rules mostly hold. Ottoman law recognized your humanity in ways European chattel slavery deliberately did not. You could own property. You could earn money on the side. You could sue in court. In fact, lawsuits filed by illegally enslaved Ottoman subjects were so common in 17th century Istanbul that legal manuals included pre-written templates for them. 79 surviving case files were only systematically studied for the first time in 2023. None of that makes you free. You cannot leave. You cannot refuse. The man of the house can sell you the way he sells furniture. The law gives you recourse, but recourse requires money, witnesses, and time. You have none of these things yet. You file the image of those legal manuals away in your mind like a key you don't yet have the door for. Years pass. If you are fortunate, and fortune is the only word that applies, you are manumitted. Freed. Your master says the words, the paperwork is filed, you walk out into the street technically a free person. But scholar Batul Ipshili Arjit proved in 2020, using previously unexamined primary sources, that for palace slaves, the relationship with the imperial court didn't end at manumission. Patronage networks continued formally until death. You are not cut loose. You are repositioned. There is a difference, and that difference is the entire Ottoman system made visible in miniature. Freedom here is not a door that closes behind you. It is a longer leash on a longer chain, and the chain is made of obligation and gift and proximity to power. Stay with me, because level 4 is where the men go, and what the empire does to a boy's identity inside the palace walls is something no history textbook has ever put in plain language. In just a moment, you are 12 years old again. Your name is about to be taken from you, and the strangest part, you will not fight it. You are a Devshirme boy, taken not by raiders but by census. Ottoman officials came to your Christian village in the Balkans and selected you, healthy, intelligent, the right age for imperial service. Your parents wept. The officials explained it was an honor. You did not know yet which of them was telling the truth. The answer, maddening and true, is both. You arrive at the palace compound in Istanbul. The first thing they do is change your name. The second thing is circumcision. The third is years of training so demanding, so total, that the boy who existed before the gates closed is systematically replaced by something the empire designed. You learn Ottoman, Turkish, Arabic, Persian. You learn to ride, to shoot, to read law. You are being rebuilt from the inside out. The Janissary Corps. You stand in formation at dawn, the smell of leather and steel oil sharp in your nostrils, the sound of the Mater band, drums and horns and cymbals vibrating in your sternum. These are the finest soldiers in the world. You are one of them now. You have no family, you have no property, you have no life outside this institution. You have never been more powerful in your life. The paradox sits in your chest like a stone. You are legally the Sultan's slave. Every man in this courtyard is. And yet outside these walls, pashas and merchants and foreign ambassadors defer to you, step aside for you, lower their eyes when your regiment passes. Your collar is invisible, your power is not. Let's talk about the women, because this is the part of the story that every documentary skips, and skipping it means missing the actual engine of the empire. You are now inside Topkapi Palace. You are a new odalisque, a female palace slave, and the scale of what surrounds you is genuinely disorienting. The harem is not the perfumed fantasy European painters invented. It is a working political institution staffed by hundreds of women organized into a strict hierarchy as rigid and brutal as any military command structure. The smell here is cedar wood and rosewater, and the sweat of close quarters, and the particular tension of rooms where status is everything, and status can shift overnight. At the bottom you carry water and fold linen and sleep in a room with 40 other women. The silence expected of you is not passive. It is active, performed, exhausting. You learn to read the mood of a room in seconds. You learn which senior woman to align with. You learn which smiles conceal and which conceal badly. Every social skill you develop here is a survival skill. You are climbing, slowly. But before I show you what the top of the harem actually looks like, and what political power a woman could genuinely hold inside these walls, I need you to understand the one thing that made it all possible. Stay through the next 2 minutes. Here is the inversion at the heart of everything. The higher you climb in the Ottoman Empire, the less you legally own yourself. The Grand Vizier, the man who commanded armies of hundreds of thousands, who received foreign ambassadors, who could sign orders that moved the fate of nations, was, in the eyes of Ottoman law, the Sultan's personal property. We'll get to him. But first, you need to see what the women above you were actually doing. You are Hurrem Sultan, or you move in her shadow. You are a senior harem woman in the 16th century, and the paperwork on your desk, yes, there is a desk, yes, there is paperwork, includes a letter you are drafting to a foreign queen. Scholar Leslie Peirce documented in 1993 that Ottoman women corresponded directly with Elizabeth I and Catherine de' Medici, not through intermediaries, as political equals. Read that again. The women the European imagination locked in cages were writing diplomatic correspondence to the most powerful women in Europe and receiving replies. The letters negotiated trade. They expressed condolence over deaths. They established political relationships. They were not love letters. They were state documents. The harem was a chancellery with perfumed walls. The era scholars call the Sultanate of Women began with Suleiman the Magnificent's reign in 1520 and lasted for over a century. During that period, high-ranking harem women exercised greater formal political power than any men below the Sultan himself. They controlled appointments. They influenced succession. They managed the empire's most sensitive political relationships. The locked door was a fiction that mostly fooled the people outside it. Your morning as a Valide Sultan, the Sultan's mother, apex of harem power, begins with a formal reception that functions like a cabinet meeting. Petitions from governors, reports from the treasury, a message from the Venetian ambassador that was routed to you before it reached the Grand Vizier, because everyone who matters knows where the real access lies. The room smells of coffee and beeswax candles. There is real authority here, and real violence. Women who misjudge the politics of succession do not retire quietly. The same corridors that smell of rosewater and cedar have seen strangulation and exile and disappearance. Power at every level of this empire is a knife you must hold by the blade to keep your grip. The only question is how much blood you can tolerate. Now the men, the real men, the ones at the top. You are walking through the divan, the imperial council chamber, and the air is thick with incense and the particular tension of men who know their lives depend on the pleasure of one person. You have risen to become a pasha, a provincial governor, one of the empire's senior administrators. Before I tell you what a day in the divan actually feels like, and before I show you the thing that will make you stop the video and tell someone, I need you to sit with one fact. Every single man in this room, including the one at the head of the table, legally owns nothing. Not his house, not his title, not his life. You are the Grand Vizier, the second most powerful person in one of the largest empires on earth. You command armies, you sign treaties, foreign heads of state send you gifts and cultivated letters. Your household employs hundreds. Your word can end a military campaign or begin one. You have been, for practical purposes, the ruler of the empire during the months the Sultan did not leave his chambers. And you own nothing. Ottoman law classified you explicitly, formally, without ambiguity, as the personal slave of the Sultan. Your property is his property, your life is his to revoke, your legal personhood is zero. Grand Viziers were strangled on order, regularly. Their estates were seized the same afternoon, their households dissolved, their names sometimes erased from official records. Power here was not a foundation. It was a loan with no repayment schedule and no warning before recall. The physical reality of this: you dress in robes that weigh several kilograms. You wear a turban that signals your rank to every person in the city before you open your mouth. When the Sultan summons you, you move immediately, whatever you are doing stops. When you enter the Sultan's presence, you bow. When you leave, you walk backward. The choreography of submission is total, and you perform it while commanding an army of 300,000 men. At the peak of the 19th century's first 70 years, between 16,000 and 18,000 enslaved people were imported into the Ottoman Empire every single year. Ehud Toledano's estimate: every year. The empire's appetite for human beings never slowed. It simply became more bureaucratic, more managed, more invisible from the outside, which is perhaps the most Ottoman thing about it. You are back in the divan, late afternoon, and the light through the high windows is going amber and long. The council has run 7 hours. You have made decisions today that will affect hundreds of thousands of lives. You are exhausted in the specific way of men who carry enormous power in bodies that are simply bodies, tired, hungry, slightly cold despite the braziers. A messenger arrives, the Sultan's seal. You feel the temperature in the room drop before you even open it. Every man here knows that sealed message could be a military order, a political appointment, a new policy. It could also be a death warrant. For you, for someone in this room. The messenger stands, expression blank, trained to reveal nothing. You break the seal. It is a military order. Routine. The room exhales, you exhale. And in the exhale you feel, and this is the truth nobody's painting captures, relief so intense it is almost indistinguishable from joy. The gap between what your life looks like from the outside and what it feels like from the inside is the Ottoman Empire in a single emotion. You are the most powerful slave in the world, and you are grateful to still be alive today. We're almost there. One level remains, and it is not the Sultan. It is the moment where all 8 levels collapse into each other and you see the system whole for the first time. That is coming in under 60 seconds. Think about what you've traveled through: an auction block in Kiev, a kitchen floor in Istanbul, a janissary formation at dawn, a harem desk with diplomatic correspondence, a divan chamber where relief and terror are the same breath. Every level promised more power and delivered more dependency. The system was not a ladder. It was a loop, and the loop ran through every human being inside it, from the enslaved Ukrainian at the bottom to the Grand Vizier at the top who owned nothing at all. By 1609, 1 in 5 people in Istanbul was legally owned. You have now stood in 8 of those lives, felt the auction block, the kitchen floor, the soldier's formation, the harem's political machinery, the Grand Vizier's robes. The most powerful man in the empire owned nothing. The locked-away women wrote letters to Elizabeth I. The system was not what it looked like from the outside. It never is. Tell me in the comments, which level surprised you most?